Should I move this chair? I feel like I'm going to be sitting in the way. Okay. Welcome and thank you all for attending. We at UAW Local 652 are proud to host Congresswoman Elissa Slotkin today for this event. I know Elissa Slotkin is a friend of Michigan working families. I know her as a friend of the UAW at every level of the auto industry. I am proud to say that Elissa walked the picket lines right here in UAW Local 652 last year during our strike against General Motors. Whether it's fighting for workers' rights or a higher minimum wage with bills like the PRO Act, Raise the Wage Act, and even Phase-In Act, we know Elissa Slotkin has our backs. Whether she's fighting for more affordable health care and prescription drug prices, Elissa has been there for not only Michigan families and workers, but for the entire nation's working families. Congresswoman Slotkin has not let us down while fighting for our right to collectively bargain and provide a decent life for our working families. There's no doubt about that. But I am just as proud to say she fights equally hard on behalf of our servicemen and women, co-sponsoring a multitude of bills promoting better working lives for veterans after their service, as well as fighting for improvements to care for our veterans. Never forgetting those who are willing to sacrifice it all for this great nation that we live in. These are just a couple reasons why UAW Local 652 is honored to host this event. We here at UAW Local 652 are excited to have a field organizer on the campaign. For purposes of introductions, I would now like to introduce Viviana.
Good morning. My name is Viviana, and I'm a field organizer here in Ingham County with Elissa Slotkin for Congress. I have lived in Michigan since the age of 11. This community has helped me get to where I am today, the first in my family to graduate high school and college, and now a proud homeowner here in Lansing. I am a DACA recipient, which means while I can legally live, work, and study in the United States, I cannot vote. As a proud Michigander, I want to give back to the community that has given me the opportunities I have today. That is why I am campaigning for Elissa Slotkin, because she advocates in Washington to protect each of our American dreams. Elissa is advocating every day for families like mine. She's working to give DACA recipients a path to citizenship so that we can be full participants in the life of our country. Elissa is fighting for manufacturers and small businesses so they can provide jobs and opportunities for us all. If you're like me, you are eager to get out and help Elissa win in November. But the question is how. With COVID-19, everything is changing about how we campaign. We are training volunteers in contactless canvassing and virtual phone banking from the comfort of their home. We are assembling, distributing yard signs and postcards, and much more with social distancing. Please visit elissaforcongress.com/volunteer and join us in this fight. Thank you for being part of our Congresswoman's campaign launch today. And now I'd like to hand things over to State Representative Sarah Anthony.
Oh, quiet for a launch. It's all good. Good morning. Thank you, Congresswoman. You know what? I woke up this morning and I thought about two things. First, it was pouring down rain. And so I said, oh no, there's a really important event happening at Local 652. I hope it doesn't get rained out. And then the second thing I thought about was, oh my God, I get to introduce a Congresswoman today. Like that doesn't say, specifically for someone like me. So thank you for the opportunity to introduce our Elissa. And, you know, in Lansing, respect is earned. And a first name basis with a Congresswoman is something that we don't take lightly. But I will tell you that here in Lansing, we don't just have a Congresswoman. We have an Elissa, our Elissa. So I want to tell you a little bit about our Elissa and how she's earned our respect and how she's earned our votes and how hopefully she can earn your ability to knock on some doors or maybe do some lit drops or some calls or to talk to your neighbors because she's earned it. So a couple of years back, I met Congresswoman Slotkin, I think it was at a house party. And at house parties and in churches and in community centers and at our doors, Elissa shared her story. She shared her love for this country. She shared her love for Michigan, her love for people, She shared her passion about spreading the ability for folks to have health care, to have a say in this American dream. She shared not just her journey, but the stories of folks all across the 8th Congressional District. She knocked on thousands of doors, not just her campaign team, not just volunteers across this community. She personally knocked on a lot of doors. And the thing that was awesome is that she didn't just knock on the doors in our most elite neighborhoods or the folks that we already knew were gonna go vote. She knocked on the hardest to reach voters' doors. I'll let you know, even on election day, this is my favorite Elissa story, even on election day, she took the time to come to my door on the south side of Lansing, in which there weren't a lot of sure votes. Not because she necessarily needed those votes, but she wanted to make sure that those folks, elected folks up and down the ticket, and made their voices heard. But more important than her actually listening and sharing her story, she genuinely engages with folks, not just on the campaign trail, but also as an elected official now. She has been fighting for Lansing. You can tell that she actually listened when she was on the campaign trail, because we've seen her take not her agenda to DC, but our agenda to the halls of power in Washington. We can tell because she's been fighting for healthcare, making it more accessible, more affordable for folks right here in this community. She knows that you shouldn't have to decide whether you're going to pay your bills or make sure that you have prescriptions to keep you alive. She's fighting that fight for us every day. When the coronavirus hit our community in ways that completely rocked us, she mourned with us, she listened to us, she convened community stakeholders, not just the elected officials, but grassroots organizations, and she got to work, making sure that we had economic relief, that she was fighting for workers, fighting for small businesses, fighting again to expand healthcare for folks who needed it more than ever. You know, our Elissa has been fighting for justice so that regardless of where you live, whether you live on the most northern part of this district or right here in Lansing, that you have an equal shot at justice, regardless of who you are, who your parents are, your skin color, or your zip code. This is why I am so proud to support our Congresswoman. So whether you call her Congresswoman Slotkin, you call her the Congresswoman, or in our case, you call her our Elissa, I am so honored to stand with her, and hopefully you will join us in standing with her and doing the work to ensure that we continue to have a strong voice in the halls of power. So without further ado, please join me. I know this is a socially distanced kind of awkward event, but please join me in welcoming Congresswoman Elissa Slotkin.
Thank you, Sarah Anthony. She's the best. If you don't know Sarah Anthony, get to know Sarah Anthony. We're all going to be working for Sarah Anthony at some point in our lives. I am thrilled to be here and welcome everyone to our official campaign launch. It certainly is different than how we envisioned it, but we are exactly 3 years to the day from when we officially launched this campaign, July 10th, 2017. And we are doing it in a completely different context, obviously, because of COVID-19 and the pandemic, but we didn't want to miss the opportunity to actually reach out, engage people, because something that was so fundamental to our campaign back in 2018 was that we had neighbors talking to neighbors, friends talking to friends, community members talking to community members about why they should care about who they elect. So we didn't want to miss the opportunity to relaunch and reimagine the campaign. You're going to hear a lot more from us in the next couple of months about this new way of approaching campaigning that hopefully maintains that deeply personal approach, because it is personal. Who represents you is personal. And just to review the bidding, 3 years ago, literally exactly today, I officially announced I was going to run. And that was after a long career in the national security world, the CIA and the Pentagon, 3 tours in Iraq, married to my husband, Dave, who is a career Army colonel. We were frankly pretty apolitical people. But the tone and tenor of politics in 2016 just felt fundamentally different, and frankly felt unbecoming of the country that we love and the country that we served. So I started thinking about running, but what really got me into the race, and what still looms extremely large in my work, in my time, in my focus, is actually a much more personal story of my mom, and her experience of going through stage 4 ovarian cancer and being diagnosed without having health insurance. She had a pre-existing condition, and she struggled her whole life to afford health insurance. So when she lost her job, she lost her insurance. And that experience of getting her terminal diagnosis at the same time, the same week, and the same month we were dealing with that, where your whole life just explodes, was the same week and the same month that we were dealing with her paperwork to fill out to declare bankruptcy. That left a lasting impression on me. So in 2017, when the House of Representatives at that time decided to repeal the ACA or Obamacare, or what I really care about, protections for people with pre-existing conditions, it broke me. It was the thing that got me into this race, quite literally watching a Rose Garden ceremony of people celebrating their vote to repeal protections for people with pre-existing conditions. Dave and I decided that we were going to do this crazy thing and try and run in what most people thought was a pretty tough district. We knew that this was our mission, and we carried through with that mission and won for the first time in 2018. But as we relaunched the campaign, I thought it was important to speak directly to people in the district and talk about why I hope to earn your vote either for a second time or for a first time. I believe it's important that no one get lazy and rest on their laurels and think that they should just get reelected because they happen to do it one time. It is my obligation to come back to you all and explain the value proposition for the constituents and the residents in this district and why I hope to earn your vote. When we won, we really, and I say we because doing this with your family is really how it's done. I went to Washington with this idea that the priorities that were absolutely being raised to me every single day in the district were the priorities I would carry with me in Washington. The price of healthcare, the price of prescription drugs, clean water, and then bringing some civility and decency back to Washington. Those were the things that I was focused on. And I'm proud to say that we made had some important accomplishments in these 18 months that I've been a member of Congress. We were able to pass 9 provisions into law in a very contentious period, in a very difficult period to get anything done. 9 provisions signed into law by the president. 6 of those provisions are on PFAS. And as many of you know, and certainly in Livingston County in this district, we have 4 PFAS contamination sites. These are things that change the ability of the military to use PFAS in their daily operations. We said no more using PFAS foam in your daily exercises just for practice. Absolutely no more PFAS foam after 2024 at all. And after 2021, the EPA will have to start testing for PFAS in our water nationwide. Those are things I'm extremely proud of. In addition, we passed bipartisan veterans bills, veteran apprenticeship bills, things that help the community that Dave and I grew up in, so that our veterans have a better shot at a better life when they come home. In addition to the laws that were signed by the president, we also passed another 10 through the House of Representatives. Most of those, the majority of those, are bipartisan. The ones that really get me are the ones on the price of prescription drugs. I cannot go through a grocery store without someone talking to me about the price of prescription drugs. And we passed a bipartisan bill through the House that will make it easier to have transparency on pricing so that you can get the least expensive drugs possible the moment you leave the doctor's office. And I hope very much that the Senate takes up this bipartisan bill immediately. We also focus on constituent services. It's not always the sexiest part of being a congresswoman, but it is a critical responsibility. We have offices in Lansing and Rochester Hills, and we've helped our residents get over $1 million back from the federal government. $14,000 here for a veteran who had money stuck at the VA, $20,000 back from the IRS there. These are the kinds of things that change people's lives when they get that much money back from the federal government that they have been trying to get for years in some cases. But we also did things like help a Boy Scout troop get a federal discount so they could go to their big event. That's the kinds of things that are important to me to make the point that government does still have the ability to work. But just as important as the things that we did was, I hope, the way that we did it. I went to Washington as someone who had never thought about being in politics, with a very different training and a very different approach to the job. I consider myself very formally a Midwestern Democrat. I am practical, I believe in bipartisanship, and I believe in decency, because that's the way that people in our community, in our district, in our state brought me up. That's how we act here in the state of Michigan. I've approached any problem that comes my way, any potential issue I hear from the district with that in mind, with those values in mind. A significant number of the bills that we've been able to pass were ideas that came quite literally from the district. Our Veterans Apprenticeship Bill came from a veteran who approached me in Oakland County with a good idea that we saw through into law. So practicality, finding those areas of compromise where even in divided government, we can get something done. That, I believe, is my responsibility and my job. Being bipartisan. In this environment, that can sometimes be tough. And people will ask me, how can you continue to work across the aisle? That is my job. It is my job to find the overlap between what I believe and what I want done and what my Republican colleagues believe and what they want done. And even if it sometimes gets strained from time to time, given what's going on in the headlines, it is still my job to knuckle down, put my nose to the grindstone, and find something that we can agree on and we can pass to make people's lives better. That is quite literally my job. And then decency. We've had a number of moments in the past 18 months in my first term in Congress where I've really had to dig deep to make a decision on how I would vote on an issue. And frankly, we have a very independently minded district. The district expects me to think independently about each and every bill and not just to take the party line. And there were many moments where I had the opportunity to vote on a bill that would have been politically expedient for me, that maybe would have been better for my reelection. And I tried my best to make decisions based on integrity, based on a sense of oath of office, and based on the idea that people should expect that from their elected officials. Now, going forward, my hope and my proposition to folks watching and to folks here is that I will continue to take that mission focus into my next term in Congress. I have held over 30 town halls in the 18 months that I have been in office, and that is not by accident. My responsibility is to be available to you and to take that fight on the things you care about, whether it's mental health or Alzheimer's, issues around autism, issues around addiction, issues around our economy and what's going to happen as we deal with the response and the fallout from COVID-19. It is my job to listen and to do something about it. So my value proposition to you is that let me continue that fight on the price of healthcare, on the price of prescription drugs, on clean water, both our waters, our lakes, and our water, our drinking water. And let me try and be a part of a new generation of elected leaders who think differently and work harder and never forget who they are fighting for. That is my proposition to you. I appreciate your time. For everyone watching, if you want to know how you can help, please do a couple inches more than you're used to and volunteer this year. You can go to our website, elissaforcongress.com. We have really creative new options on how to engage your communities from the safety of your home and without any contact that's going to get us all in trouble in this pandemic. It's creative, it's new, it's different, and it creates community that right now I feel like we all need. So thank you for listening. Thank you to our other speakers for speaking from the heart. It is my honor and privilege to be the representative of this district, and I hope you give me the opportunity to do it again. Thanks very much.